Happy Thanksgiving, 93.
We're all at your mom's house.
We're going to talk with Nanny a little bit about, we're going to hear a few of those stories that we know and love. And
Can I talk about the cat story?
Rick does want to hear the cat story.
Oh, okay.
Let's hear the cat story.
Are you on now?
Oh yeah, you're on.
Oh. You want to hear about the cat story?
Yeah.
Don't bother me.
No, I know, but we won't be able to hear it later. Maybe later.
When I was a little girl, when we were growing up, there was eight of us, besides my mom and dad. And when Aunt Sadie, who was the oldest, when she got married, I was 2 years old. And then when Lily got married, I was 3, because I was 40 years. My mother was 40 years old when I was born, and we had a cat who I hated. I hated the cat because for some reason or other, whenever I go near her, she raised up her punches, and she was a big tomcat. And that night I went to sleep. I slept in bed with, Sally was in the crib, and I slept in a bed with Aunt Tan and Aunt Bee. And in the middle of the night, I felt I was sleeping on a furry thing, and I thought, what in the world is that? And I started screaming, and with that, the cat jumped at me, and I grabbed my face because otherwise she was right at me. And I told my mother, I was 3 years old, I told my mother, if she don't get rid of the cat, I'm leaving home. But I didn't get her to leave home, and eventually she got rid of the cat, but not right away. And talking about weddings, Sadie's wedding I don't remember, but Lily's I do, because I was 3 years old. And we lived on Carr Street, and the wedding was upstairs and downstairs, because the woman downstairs was a very good friend of my mother's. And upstairs we ate on long tables. They had boards on horses, on those horse things, and with sheets over it. And the sheet touched the ground. You know, the bottom of the sheet touched the floor. So I must have done something to Uncle Al, because he was about 12, and he packed me so hard I ran under the table and I hid there, which is true. And everybody was looking for me because the wedding was supposed to be taking place. No one could find Hillary, up and down the street and everywhere. And I was underneath the table. I was scared to come out. And I heard my father say, when she comes out, she's really going to get it. So I wouldn't come out. Finally, I did come out. And don't think I didn't get it. Crack on my butt. And then the wedding went on. There's so many little things, though, when we grew up with a big family. But there was so much love in our family, so much affection between my mother and dad, and everybody got along beautifully with them. Well, there was plenty of fighting that went on, because after all, after Lily and Sadie got married, there were 6 of us at home for a long time, until my brother Jack got married when I was 12 years old. Anyway,
How many were there originally? How many kids were there originally?
My mother had 9. One died a year before she came here, a little girl.
She got scolded or something?
Yeah.
Scalded. Scalded.
She yelled. That was horrible.
She got yelled at.
No, I don't even, that's before my time, because Sally and Ann and I were born here. When Betty came over, she must have been about a year and a half. My mother came here with 5 children.
Where'd they live? Is it Poland or?
No, that's from Russia, Kiev. And going back on stories, when my dad came here in 1910, my mother came here in 1911 with 5 children. But the best part was when they came over, and they went through Ellis Island, and if they had any kind of disease, eyes or anything, they were sent back to Europe. They couldn't come through the customs. Well, Betty got chicken pox on the ship coming over, because it took weeks and weeks till they came in. It didn't take a day, it took weeks. And she knew that they wouldn't let her come in, so she kept her real dirty. She washed her face with dirt and everything. And when they went through the doctors, they went through the line with the doctors, he says, you don't keep your children clean. Oh, I'll keep them clean when I come to America. But she had chicken pox. Otherwise, they sent her right back. So, what do you want to tell you about when I grew up?
Yeah.
You
You
were
were
doing
born.
good. Just keep going.
Yeah, you're doing great. Where were you born?
I was born in Carr Street in St. Louis.
In the house?
Uh-huh.
Not in the hospital. Is that the way
No.
everybody was born back then?
No, not everybody, but Sally was born in the hospital. I was born in the house. And years ago, you always had a boarder, always, because we only had 4 rooms, and there were 6 children, 2 adults, and a boarder. And the boarder slept in the kitchen on a hide bed that you open. You know, they call it a chicken coop, but it was a regular bed.
Wow.
And I was born at 2 o'clock in the morning, and Sadie was so mad because I kept her up the whole night because my mother I was being born, and there was so much screaming and yelling and she was having a fit and Sadie. Anyway, I grew up on Carr Street.
Wait, I have a quick question for you, 2 of them. First of all, why'd you have a boarder?
You know, everybody had a boarder. Whoever came over from Europe and had no place to stay, everybody
Just
took someone in.
To help pay the rent?
Help pay the rent, sure.
And what did you call the doctor, or who delivered the baby? Who
A
delivered it?
midwife.
Midwife.
They always had a midwife.
And then where did she live? Who's
I
In
don't
the
know.
bathroom.
how do you get a hold of a midwife?
Oh, everybody that was pregnant had a midwife. Very few doctors, and everybody didn't go to the hospital. It was too expensive. They didn't have the money, so you're born at home.
So you called the midwife, and she came over?
Yeah, and then that's when my mother told me I was being born then. 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay, when I was a little girl, we lived on Carr Street.
What was that? What part of?
2300 Carr.
Was that downtown?
That's
That's-
below Jefferson.
Is that street still here?
Yeah, but you can't go there no more.
Below Jefferson. I work on Jefferson and Market, so where's in proportion
This
to
is,
that?
North, isn't it?
Jefferson and Carr Street.
North of
That
Clark?
would be north, yeah.
Okay.
How many blocks north?
Let's see, about 5 blocks north, 6 blocks north of Market Street.
Alright, so almost into North City.
And I was born right next to Carlene School. I guess the school is still there, who knows? Because that's long, long, long ago. But we had a good childhood. We didn't have a lot of money. Everybody was poor, and we thought that the whole world was poor. You didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Then we moved to, my father bought a grocery store. My sister Bill sold him her store. That was what, I hated that neighborhood with a passion. Because you had to go to school on a streetcar because there was no kids to play with.
This is on Carr
It
Street?
was all, there was a black area.
Was this before the Depression?
Oh, are you
Sure.
kidding? 77 years ago,
So it was about 5-10 years before the Depression.
1915.
Okay.
It was when the war started, 1914.
Right.
Anyway, what else can I tell you?
So you had seven sisters and 2 brothers?
I had 6 sisters and 2
Six
brothers.
sisters and 2
There was
brothers.
8 of us. It was
What about Poppy? Talk about
Well,
Poppy.
when I grew up. Let's see, we moved. I met Poppy when I lived on Kensington. I loved it there, 5100 Kensington, right on the corner. And now you can't go down those neighborhoods.
How'd you meet him?
I went to a party with this other guy, and Poppy was there with all his friends, and he started dating me, and that's how I started dating him.
How'd you meet him?
At a party.
What happened?
He just walked up to you? Or?
Yeah, I danced at the party, and he wanted to know if he could take me home, so I went home with him.
You went home with him on the first date?
Uh-huh.
No
I went home
way.
with him.
Oh,
So-
come on now.
Yeah, it's the truth. And what's his name? Joe Kraus had a car, and everybody used to pile into the car. And then I was a beautician, and I guess I was 17.
Wait, how old were you when you met him?
So I got married, I was 20. About a year and a half.
Okay, so you were 18.
Yeah.
18.
20, that was like the normal age, or even younger, right?
What?
People got married when they were like 18. Then?
Oh, everybody got married. They were so young. 21, 22, you were an old maid. Everybody got married young.
Yeah.
Anyway, we went together and we got married. Got married at the rabbi's study, and then we came back to my mother's house in Kensington. We had a party there. Everybody always had fish, herring, sandwiches, everything. It was
Gefilte
wonderful.
fish? Gefilte fish?
Right. And anyway, so when we got married, we had $90 between us. And I had to make my own wedding because my dad was sick and my mother was sick. And after all, my mother was 40 years old when I was born, so she was already 60. And we got married, and we were supposed to go, and his best boyfriend got married that night, and we were supposed to go to Chicago. We both got married on Sunday night. And when Poppy asked for a couple of days off, they fired him. They said, no, there's no business anyway, you might as well not come back. So here we got married, $90 between us, and no job. But I was working.
What was he doing?
Huh?
What was he doing?
He worked in a cat factory, making hats. And I can remember when we got, so we didn't go to Chicago, we couldn't afford it, you know, because Poppy had to look for a job. And then he became, he bought it, we had a thing called service cars. When they went downtown, up and down, like the buses. Everybody worked downtown. There was no subdivisions with stores like there is today. So he bought it, so we lived in a furnished place. But that was a riot when we got married, when we moved on, let's see, 57, no, let's see, we lived on Enright, right off of Goodfellow. It's like 5900 or something like that. Had a darling place there. So Poppy lost his job. Well, we moved in. What do we have? Dishes, pots, and pans, and your clothes, you know. So we moved in there, and he didn't have a job. So every day he went looking for a job, but I was working. So the landlady says to him, how can you not have a job? Your wife is working, and you're just playing around. That night we moved. He wouldn't stay there. So we didn't have a place to go, and he says, I am not living here one more night, we're going to find a place. So Aunt B lived on 5050, right off of Kings Highway, Maple, 5050 Maple. So I called Betty, and she says, and she got married 2 weeks before I did. She and Charlie, Charlie passed away already. So she says, calls me up, she says, I know there's a vacancy on 5070 Maple on the 3rd floor. So I says, go over there and give her a deposit, and we're moving tonight. So we had to wait till Uncle Charlie came home from work because he had a car. We didn't have a car. So we move in, and meanwhile, his best boyfriend in Chicago calls him up and says, Dave, I'm coming through St. Louis for one day, and I just got married too, and I want to see you and your wife. Well, we were all young. So we moved, as soon as Charlie came home, we moved with nothing. We moved on 5070 Maple. It was a darling place on the 3rd floor. We had the whole 3rd floor. And you had to share, there was two apartments up there. You had to share the bathroom. You had to share the ice box. They didn't have Frigidaire's. And the telephone was in the hall.
Ice box. Now what was it? Just a big box with a block of like dry ice?
Yeah, with the ice and you know. So that night, after we moved in, it was about 10 o'clock, 10:30, and all his friends came over. So what do we have? We had beer and chips, or potato chips, or pretzels, popcorn. So this was a big old house on 5070 Maple. Well, this woman, her president, I'll never forget her. So she had a lot of apartments down on the 1st floor. She had 3. And the living room was one of the fellows lived there, and you had the sliding doors in the hall. So here we move in at night, and we're having a big party, and Poppy says, I'll go downstairs and wait for everybody to come. So there was a girl living in the back. She always cheated on her husband. And as soon as he worked nights, and as soon as he left for work, she would go out. So Poppy's sitting downstairs, and he's thinking, well, I better turn the light off in this foyer, you know. And the steps went upstairs, like over here. So he's sitting down there waiting for this Eddie and his wife to come over. From, you know, they came in from Chicago, and this girl that lived in the back, she and her husband, she went out that night. So by 11:30, he's waiting for everybody. He sees this couple come up to the door, and he's thinking it's his friend. And when he opened the door, she was hysterical. She thought it was her husband. And she ran down the street hollering, help, murder, police, because she knew that he was going to kill her. Well, Betty opened up the window where she was living on 5000 Maple. She says, come in over here. Well, in a minute, the police were there, and Poppy got so nervous, he went into this other fellow's bedroom, and he hid in there. I came running down 3 flights of steps, no Poppy, nobody's there. Well, it was a riot until it was straightened out, till 1 o'clock in the morning, and the police says, and here we got the party, and here this couple's there, and couldn't find Poppy at all until he came out of that room. It was a riot. It was really a riot. But we lived there for about 3 years until we could have enough money to buy his furniture. What else should I tell you?
What about when Poppy came over?
He came over in 1927.
And what was the story with his parents?
27. Let's see, he came over in 1926 or 27. Anyway, he was 16 years old. His father hadn't left Europe to come to America when he was...
He came from Poland, right?
Right, when he was a year old, from Poland.
What year?
Warsaw.
Okay, when was it?
Let's see. He was born in 1910, so he was 16 years old when he came here in 1926. He couldn't speak English, and he was tall and skinny. And when
Come over with his parents, or who did he come over with?
no, his father came over first, and then the war broke out, 1914, and they didn't let no one come over. And I think the war ended in 1918. So he came over, Poppy's father came over, and he brought over his 3 sisters and left Eva and he in Europe. And there was another brother.
Back then, most people, they come over in shifts, right? They come over and make
Yeah.
enough money to bring someone back up.
So he didn't bring, so he was, it was 16 years before he had socks, 15 years before I seen Poppy. And when he got off the train here in St. Louis, he went to meet the train. He says, I don't know him. I'm not going to take care of him. He's nothing to me. And he never did. He never acknowledged him. All those years. And so he and Eva, there was a woman on a ship when they came over. He used to take care of her kids because she was real sick the whole time. So she says, come live with us until you get yourself together. So he went to night school, and he lived down on Biddle Street with her. There was like 10 people in 3 rooms. You know, it was terrible, 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 until he got started. He went to school, he went to work, but he always lived with Eva, even when we got married. But she was very possessive. She didn't want him to get married.
This is his older sister?
Remember Aunt Eva? You don't remember?
I remember
Yeah,
when
she had
she
black
called
hair.
when she was dying.
Huh?
I remember when she called when she was dying. I think Poppy just had heart surgery,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't let him talk to her because she was, I don't know what she was saying, but
All I remember is she had black hair, and she always used to ask me if I knew who she was. That's all I remember.
Yeah, right. Listen, she must have died about, she died before Poppy. Poppy's gone 14 years. She died like 16 years ago. No, 15. She died about 8 months before him. So she must have died in 19...
she died when you were in your old house. I remember that.
When I lived on...
Over in Olivet.
yeah, in Indian Meadows.
Yeah.
She died almost a year before he did. what should I tell you?
How about when he came over on the boat and he had to change his name?
Why did they come to St. Louis?
Because Poppy's father, his two brothers came here
Why
first.
did they come here? Do you know?
No, they just picked St. Louis because they said it was a booming town.
Yeah, what about the name thing on the boat?
Oh, his name was Killam.
Yeah.
Well, Poppy's father didn't like the name Killam. He changed it to Goldfeather because his brothers all changed it to Goldfeather. Which
Well,
was,
why'd they pick Goldfeather?
they didn't like their last name.
Wasn't there some guy in line next to him or something with that name?
Somebody had a name close to that, and they said, okay, we'll call you Goldfeather. They put a stamp in, and you were Goldfeather. There was no Social Security, there was nothing then, so picked up a name, whatever you wanted.
Wish I could pick up a name.
Well, what's wrong with your name?
So anyway, back to the story.
We get a lot of trouble for our name.
Huh?
I bet a lot of people laugh at my last name.
Why, Weinstein?
I just think it's funny.
Why?
I don't know, I don't see the humor in it. Anyway, so when you came over, what'd you do?
How come you're laying on the floor?
I'm hungover,
Huh?
tired.
Then what else can I tell you?
Poppy's parents were tailors?
No.
No?
No.
What did they?
He had a, now they used to call it now they would call it a pawn shop. He had a store down on Franklin Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Didn't he invent some machine?
huh?
Didn't he invent something? His
Who?
dad?
No.
Somebody, maybe that was on Grandpa's side.
It's it was Martha's husband, Skippy.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
But then he got into the tailor business, which is what Peter's going to
We
do.
opened up a cleaning place, right?
So, who opened the cleaning business?
First he had a service car years ago. They used to have I told you they had the service cars. Charged 15 cents to take it downtown, and then his friend of his decided to go into cleaning business. So he went with him on 2100 Market Street, near where you were, right in front of that milk place. Seal Test, are they still there?
Peebly?
Yeah.
Was it on Grand? I'm thinking Grand. There's one on
No,
Grand.
no, it's 2100 Marcus.
Yeah. They're not there anymore.
Where the trains came in on 18th Street.
Right,
At that time, the trains went back and forth, Union Station.
Some aspirins.
So then he and his friend opened up bought a cleaning place there. Couldn't get along at all, because Poppy did all the work and the other one just didn't do nothing. So he bought him out. But that's a miserable business. When you have to take all that clothes and all that. Ooh, I hated it.
Talk to the camera.
I hated it.
What about the beauty salons and that?
But when I went to beauty business,
Yeah.
How'd you start that? How'd you start
when we
that?
lived on Clark and Compton and had a grocery store, and all my friends were non-Jews, because there wasn't one Jewish girl that was a beauty operator. Nobody. And they all decided to go to beauty school. We went to high school for a couple of years though,
What are you doing?
and then I went to beauty school. That's it. What
So
else?
it's beauty school. You started the shop yourself, though, right?
Or when I had a beauty salon, I bought it on a spur of a moment.
It was your salon, though, right?
Huh?
It was yours, right?
Yeah.
What
On
was it?
8300, 600 Alice Street Road.
Right.
No, 8300, I was there. Well, that's before you were born.
No, what was the name of the place that I used to go to get my hair cut? An Olive.
Huh?
An Olive. An Olive Head.
Oh, when you came in where I had the beauty shop there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was mine. It was Hilda's Beauty
I
Salon.
remember it.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. I used to come in there and you used to give me money for the gum machine.
Right.
I used to get handfuls of gum and put it in my mouth until I couldn't
You were
open it
just a little
anymore.
kid, sure.
So that was your...
That was 20 years ago.
It was called Hilda's Beauty Salon?
Yeah. I had one on 8300 and I moved up to 9600.
I remember the first one.
Do you really?
Yeah, it was pink, wasn't it? A lot of pink
pink
in it.
and green.
Yeah. Yeah. It was down Olive. I remember barely.
Yeah, we were.
When did you sell it? How old was it?
Well, I didn't sell it. I did sell all the equipment, and then I moved up to $9,600.
When did you do that?
Huh?
Do you remember what year that was?
Gosh, when was that? I bought that when your mom got engaged.
The original one.
Yeah, when she got engaged. She was married about 35 years, wasn't she?
Yeah, well, she was,
36 years ago. Then.
yeah, she was 24 when I was born, so.
24 and 34.
She got married when she was 21, didn't she?
She got married, she was 20.
So like, probably,
And then that's when I opened up that shop. And
61, 62.
61 she got married.
Yeah.
And then I moved up to 9,600.
How long after that?
Oh, what years could that have been? Here comes Amy now.
And your did all your brothers and sisters came over about the same time?
Yeah, all my family came over the same time.
Well, half were born here.
Half were born here.
3 were born.
The rest were born in Russia?
Yeah, in Kiev.
Kiev. And they just randomly picked...
What else should I tell you?
They randomly picked St. Louis?
What should I tell them?
Tell them about the time that that we all, let's see, I was pregnant with Danny,
We went to Lewis.
and we went to Lewis.
Uh-huh.
I was pregnant with Boyd then.
Yeah, that was a riot.
What did you do?
So,
Lewis joined the playgoers because he didn't have anybody in Marshalltown, Iowa when he moved there. And he lived in this old big house up on the 3rd floor. He had the whole 3rd floor. And God, there must have been about 10 or 12 people living there, weren't there?
oh, at least. Horrible old house.
The bathroom was so big there was a bed in there. Is that where Lewis put you?
I think it was in the bath.
Huh?
Yeah, I think it was.
So what happened?
She slept in his bed and he slept in the bathroom. The bathroom was so big, like this. It was a big old house when Lewis lived there in Marshalltown. Well, he didn't know anybody, so he joined the playgoers, and he was in all the leads.
What's playgoers?
Well, where they had plays like Gypsy and all those plays, especially Gypsy. So he calls us up, and he calls me up and he says, I said, how you do? I talked to him a lot because he was lonesome and didn't have anybody there. So he says, I'm going to play, and I said, what part you got? He says, I got part of Gypsy Rose Lee's boyfriend, you know. So I said, would you want us to come up to see you? He says, would you? I says, yeah. I says, Papa and I'll come up there. So we went up there Saturday afternoon, and that night he was in the play. And they were so wonderful. The whole crew was fantastic. And he even sang. And I said to Eileen, boy, Marshalltown, in 1/2 hour he went through the whole town. It was so small. So I said to Eileen, we're going to, so Eileen said, I want to go too. And I think Bard was born then. Oh, you were pregnant with Ricky. So, I don't know who took care of you, boy. Somebody took care of you. So Eileen went with us. We flew up there. It only took 45 minutes. And we went to, Lewis picked us up at the airport. To drive to Marshalltown, it took 1 hour and 20 minutes. To fly to Marshalltown took 45 minutes. It took him longer to come pick us up than for us to fly there. So as soon as we got there, Eileen says she was starving. So we ate, and she stayed with him, and we stayed in a motel like a block away. And so it was a riot, though. All she wanted to do is eat. And Lewis says, from meal to meal. You remember that, Eileen? So we went to the play. They were wonderful. So I said to Eileen, we went to Saturday night and Sunday night. No, Friday night and Saturday night. We came home Sunday. So she says, so it was a riot, though. She says, and where does Lewis sit us? Down in the bottom, the first row. So I said, they were so good. I says, they need a standing ovation. So this woman was sitting next to me. She says, well, we don't do that in Marshalltown. I said, we sure do that in St. Louis. And I stood up and I says to Aileen, stand up. And here she's in her 8th month. So she says, no, she says, I'm not. Anyway, and I started clapping and stood up, and everybody clapped and stood up. I says, they need a standing ovation. Well, that night they had a cast party. We all went to the cast party. So the manager says, I can't believe that everybody would stand up, after the play was over, because he said they don't even think of doing that here, but they were fantastic. We went up to a couple of plays that Louis was in, and Aileen, all she did was eat from the minute we got there to the minute we left, from meal to meal. And but she stayed in his hot place there, and we stayed a block away. What else can I tell you?
Something about when they were kids.
Who, the kids? Louis and Mari fought terribly.
Didn't Lewis have polio, which
Yeah.
didn't that give him like some kind of chemical imbalance or something, which made him fight even more?
Well, see, it hit his central nerve.
It hit his central nerve.
When Louis had polio, he was 9 years old. Mari was 6 and a half, and Aileen was 11. They didn't let the kids go to school for a month. And then they got those polio shots. And, but when Louis had polio, oh my God. But he's fine now. He's very handsome, very successful.
Didn't he used to sleep? Didn't he used to sleep in your bed or something and Poppy?
I put Mari in with Poppy, and I slept in Mari's bed because Louis was going to kill him. See, it hit a central nerve, and he took it out on me and Mari. We had games galore because that's when I had the beauty shop in the house on McPherson. It was on McPherson.
In Central West End?
He also,
Yeah. Was it on McPherson?
yeah.
When Louis got sick?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, but Sally lived downstairs. And, yeah.
He went to St. Anthony,
Yeah.
and they kicked us out of school. They wouldn't let us go to school.
Not for 1 month.
Why?
There was a terrible epidemic in was that 52? Let's see, 52. Because Louis was 9.
Yeah.
What year was that? 52?
Well, how old is Louis? 50?
Yeah.
So, how many years ago?
40 years ago.
41, so it was
Yeah,
52.
41 years ago. What's 41 years?
52?
I
No,
remember
52.
I remember reading about some bad polio.
52. Let's see, if it's
93, it was 52.
52, we have a terrible epidemic. It went through St. Louis just like chickenpox. And I'll never forget, we had Dr. Gowan, and it was in September, before school starts, Labor Day. He got sick, and he ran fever, and his throat hurt, and we were going on a picnic. So I said to Poppy, you take both kids, Aileen and Mari, and I'll stay home with Louis. Well, he had a fit because he couldn't go. So as the day progressed, he got sicker, and I called a pediatrician. He came right out. That time they used to come to your house. And he said he had a bad virus. And this was a riot. Every day he was out there. I didn't even tell him to come. And he was out there 4 days in a row. And I says, Louis isn't getting any better. I says, he's getting worse. So,
And you carried him?
huh?
And you carried him? You wouldn't let him walk?
No, we wouldn't let him. Betty and I took him to this, he was like a psychiatrist. He told me then that Louis had polio. That was on Thursday. Friday morning, he says, take him here and do this and do that. I says, I want him in St. Anthony's Hospital. He said, you'll never get him in there. I said, I'll find somebody to get him in there. And the next day, Friday, there was a Rosh Hashanah Eve. Dr. Galva comes out, and he says, well, we'll decide. See, meanwhile, the day before, I took him into Dr. Levy, and he told me right away he had polio. And he says, you'll have to give him the Sister Kenny packs, and if it don't hit his palate, he'll live, otherwise he won't. The next morning, I call Dr. Gal comes out, and he says, I talked to Dr. Jadon, and I wouldn't let the kids downstairs come up, you know, Sally's kids. Sally comes upstairs right with him, and he says to me, he says, well, we'll try another medication. You'll put him in Jewish hospital. I said, I'm not putting him in Jewish hospital. And she always says, I talked to Dr. Jadon. I'll never forget that. And he was like a consultant. I said, that's who I want. Come out and tell me how sick Louis is. So he said, you'll never get him. Well, by that time I hadn't slept for 5 nights. And I said, you get him out here or Sally and I are going to kill you. So I took a knife out of the drawer and I said, I am going to kill you. Well, he called Dr. Jadon and said, ask Sally. This is the honest to God truth. Sally said, and what she starts, I'll finish. I'll finish. So he calls Dr. Jadon and I said, you're not leaving here until he comes out. So he said he'd be out around 11 o'clock. Well, he did come out. He told me he's not going to, it's in his mouth. He said that's why Louis couldn't chew, he couldn't eat. He said, you'll never get him into St. Anthony's. I said, as long as I know what's wrong with him, I will. That night at 11 o'clock they called me, and we got this Dr. Franklin, and he was on staff there. So Franklin got us into St. Anthony's. Well, when we got in there, he had a bone man, he had Sister Kenny packs, he was in water, and they did a lot for him. So, but when he came home, I had to rent this little machine, work on his face. Yep, all the nerves here, muscles, nerves. It brought his face back. But I'll never forget that. But mean, he was so mean, it was unreal. So we see it hit his central nerve, and we didn't know that. Remember how he used to fight? He used to hit Aileen, he used to fight with Maury. But we went to Dr. Got his name, for 1 year, psychiatric care and physical therapy. At that time, you could get a cab. I didn't drive at that time, so we rented a cab, and the cab it was $35 a month. He used to take us to the down to the hospital after he was discharged for those packs and all kinds of stuff, and then he would take Louis to school, and then I went to work. Louis used to run away all the time, always. And then after a while, then he was okay. It took a whole year.
Did you tell them the story about the measles on the boat with your sisters?
Yeah.
With the dirt.
When
They
Mama
kept
came
them
home?
dirty?
Yeah, kept them dirty.
What about, now Maury had something, didn't he?
Yeah, Maury was sick.
What did he have?
He inhaled the germ as he was 12 years old, so Louis was already 15. And then we moved to Dartmouth. You remember Dartmouth? When you graduated U City School? That was worse than Louis. But it took Maury a long time to get well.
What
He inhaled a germ and it touched a certain part of his brain. And he was sick for a long time.
He had inflammation of the brain?
Something, yeah.
Inflammation of the
But
brain.
they didn't operate on him. It could have happened when he was about 6 or 7. They were playing horseshoes out in the yard, and he fell and hit his head on one of the horseshoe things. He had about, I don't know how many stitches across the back of his head. They said it could have come from then, like adhesions, or it could have come from another fall or something.
How about the story about Louis? Wouldn't somebody borrow his fake ID and then you having to go identify the body?
Whoa, that was terrible.
That's a good story.
Remember that, Aileen?
How'd that go?
Oh.
Was he in Rolla?
He was going. Louis went to school at Rolla, and this is when they were supposed to graduate, the day before graduation. And he says, he was working, and I was we'll be there. Tomorrow's graduation, we'll be there. We'll see you. Stay in school. So, and he says, well, I'll see. Maybe I'll come home. If the kids are coming in, I'm coming in. Well, that morning, it was about 6 o'clock in the morning, they called me, and you see, one of his fraternity brothers stole his wallet with his ID in it. So that this one boy had Lewis's wallet on him.
Mm-hmm.
So they said that your son is very sick, and Maury slept out that night. And I knew where he was, though. And he was going, anyway, so he calls me up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he says, are you Mrs. Goldfeder? I said, yeah. Do you have a son, Lewis? I said, yes. He says, well, there was a great here at the county hospital, and I want you and your husband to come down. Well, so I kept saying, is he alive? He says, I want you to come down. He wouldn't tell us nothing on the phone. We go down to the county hospital, and when I came into, they were waiting for us there, a doctor and a couple of nurses, and I said, what's wrong? We want you to come upstairs here. Well, where did they take us? They took us to the morgue, and there's these two his fraternity brothers. They had this terrible accident. They used to go out, come to St. Louis on a back road. The road was very narrow, 2 cars, one going up and one going down, and the hills were terrible. And this car, they had a head-on collision, and the people in the other car, the woman was killed, and these 2 boys were killed. And they wanted me to, and we went into the morgue. He says, you're in the morgue. Well, Poppy's face turned white as a sheet, and the nurse quick got a chair for him. And I said, they pulled the bodies out, and they brought him in just right after the accident, and that's what I saw. And when they pulled the body out, this one kid, I says, that isn't Lewis. That's not his feet. I could tell you that's not Lewis. And Poppy he was screaming his head off. And when I identified that one boy, he said, now this is not the boy that the wall was found on. You know, I had identified both the boys. Poppy just could not do it. And I says, oh my God, that is not my son. And then they found out that he took his wallet. It was terrible.
Did they look at the ID thing? And
Well, he had Lewis's identification.
did you look at the picture on it or something?
Did we have pictures then?
You might have.
What about the story about the clubhouse when you used to party all night at the clubhouse?
Oh, we used to have so
And when
much.
Pops was in the hula costume.
Oh, I think Lewis has those pictures. I may
Tell
have.
them the story about the clubhouse.
Oh,
What happened? You had what?
We came home, and I called Lewis, and he answered the phone, and he says, I'm coming in. I says, no, don't you dare come in. I said, don't you do it. And I told him who the kids were. Oh, he had a fit, because the next day was graduation. I said, you went to graduation, and so did you. You were like 2 years old or 3 years old.
But tell them the story about the clubhouse. I want to hear.
Oh, Poppy joined the Souths Club. Well, now it's just disbanded because a lot of the fellows died and the rest of them are all sick.
How old was it?
Huh?
How old was Poppy?
He joined the clubhouse when you were a year old, 50 years ago, 51 years ago. And it was $1 a month. And I had we didn't have anything. And I said, you can't afford it. $1 a month. And with the money that they collected, there was like 36 fellows in the club. They were all the same age. And they bought a clubhouse. Well, it was an outside toilet, privy. And I mean, it was primitive out there in Valley Park. But we used to have parties. What?
I don't want to go into
So what'd you do at your parties?
Oh, no one had parties like we did.
What
For
were you
Halloween,
It's a
for,
thing.
you're gonna ruin it.
Stop playing with my toys.
Anyway, so what were the parties like?
When he got put stuff in there.
I
We used to have so many parties. We had what do you call it?
Hawaiian.
Hawaiian party. Well, we all, the girls dressed too. And then the fellas put on their, I have to get that picture. The fellas put on all the costumes.
Hooligan.
And you should see
Grass skirt.
grass skirts, bras, wigs. It was a riot.
You used to stay overnight at the
We
clubhouse?
used to stay overnight before you were born.
Did you guys get too loaded so you couldn't drive home?
No, there was a couple of bedrooms upstairs, and everybody brought cots and stuff. You know, we were young.
You used to drink?
We used to drink.
What did you drink?
Huh?
What did you drink?
Oh, and do you remember when Louis came in, and Mari, and you all came to the hotel where we were? Do you remember
The
that?
South parties in New York?
We couldn't afford to go on vacation, so we used to take a weekend. Right after work, we used to get dressed, Poppy and I, dressed nice, and took stuff with us, and we up and down Lindbergh. There wasn't a motel that we did not stay in. We went south and north. We checked in at after work at about 6 o'clock. Came home the next night. It's you know, we checked out in the morning then, and I couldn't give up my job to go on a vacation. So that's how you felt like you were out of town. So this one night, I think, what hotel was it? Up north. So two other couples went with us. There were 6 of us. And we drank. That's when I learned how to drink pina coladas or what it was. I had about 8 or 9 of them. It was so hot. I was drunk as all hell. And when we got in the room, I didn't like the room anyway. I said, this room is dirty, it's filthy. And I got in bed, and then about 2 o'clock in the morning, there was knocking on the door. So I said to Puppy, the room is filthy. Now they're trying to break in, you know. It was Aileen and Maury and Louis with Mark and Diane and Roberta. The kids were married then. They kept saying, get out of bed. I said, I can't get out of bed. I didn't have nothing on. We had fun though that night. They stayed in the room for about an hour.
What were your parents like?
Wonderful. My mother was a doll. You would have loved her. Beautiful. Very wisely. And my father was too, and they were very much in love. And
He was a tailor, right?
Yeah.
And she used to sew.
Jewish tailor? No way.
No, my father was. He used to make jackets of just the jackets, and this other tailor made the pants. My mother helped him plenty.
She cooked for 8 children? Yeah.
She cooked, and you know who else used to be at her house every weekend? Was Edith and Sarah and my Uncle Nat, because they were very poor.
So she cooked for 10 people, 12 people.
Oh, she always cooked. A lot. Okay, go. We got big stuff in the oven.
And she used to. I remember Baba when she lived in Tan's house.
Yeah,
And I always remember her sewing.
always was. She died when let's see, Mari was 2. She died 46 years ago. I didn't have her long enough.
And then, didn't you used to go to Aunt Sadie's because they made you go work there? Didn't they make
No, Mercedes had a grocery store in East St. Louis. I went there during the summer to take care of the kids. I was 8 years old.
You were 8? You were
8, and Sydney was 5.
Sitting you.
Huh? She said those kids. She had 2 kids, 3 kids. Elaine was an infant. Shirley was 3, and Sydney was 6, and I was a babysitter. Like a nightmare.
You didn't like it.
Hated it. What else can I tell you?
Did everyone speak Russian in the family?
My mother did. My father spoke Russian.
What about your older brothers and sisters?
But we never learned it.
What about the ones that were born there? Like, yeah, wasn't he born in Russia?
Yeah, they didn't keep up with it. No.
Or they lost it when they came
English, and so was Sadie and Owen. But Betty was an infant.
When Papa came here, he didn't know any English.
No. He never went to night school.
Learn English.
What happened when he came over here and he went to see his father?
He disowned him.
Oh, you told him that?
He disowned him. Didn't even want to come to the wedding when we got married.
That's lousy.
I wanted to keep that store. I was very, we were very foolish. They had so much, my husband's father had a store on Franklin Avenue, like, they call it a, now they would call it a pawn shop. But it had everything in it. The blacks used to come in and pawn, even their shoes. He had so much stuff there. But when he died, it's a shame, he would put a padlock on there. She wouldn't let me take nothing out of there. They had a lot of jewelry, a lot of things. And I begged Poppy, I says, he was working, and I said, open up the store for a couple hours at night and all day Saturday. Eventually he'll get out of it, because that's when they were drafting all the, he didn't go in the Army. He missed it like 6 months. They took certain ages, you know.
What happened at the Army? What did Papa do?
Huh?
What did Papa do during the war?
Oh, he worked at a defense plant, making airplanes.
Riveting?
Remember? And then you gotta put stuff in the oven. Somebody's gotta go down and get the bridge table and one chair.
Yeah, that'd be bored.
Look how
Yeah,
tired
I'll do it
everybody
because I
is.
know you'll be dogging later. So.
Look how tired everybody is.
That's funny, Rick said that.
Hey, you know, you want to play, you got to pay. You know the rules.
Why are you putting up the glass doors?
I don't know. I'm worried about that log.
Will they break?
Maybe it's too close because of the fires. Kind of pulls it.
Little bitty fireplace.
Well, you didn't think you had many stories. It's been an hour.
Has it?
Yeah.
What else do I know?
What else you got?
I don't know.
Put the fan down for it. Come on, boys.
Back then,
That's my greatest fan.
when you were growing up,
When Aileen was born,
was there a minimum wage set?
here's no.
What about when you do the beauty shop?
I made $18 a week because I worked nights. Oh boy, it's gonna break. It's gonna break. You'll be sorry.
So wait, you're starting to talk about when
I
Mom
have to
was
put
born.
my toys away because my little baby body's gonna break my toys.
I got to do something.
Nanny, you were starting a story about when Mom was born.
Oh, when Aileen was born?
Lights went out. It must have been terrible.
No. I wanted a little boy in the worst way.
You missed.
And Poppy wanted a little girl.
You're kidding. Why do you want a girl?
He wanted a girl.
Why do you want
And
a
when
girl?
she was born,
It's my biggest nightmare.
everybody in the family had boys, boys, boys. And she was the first little girl born in like 20 years. And she was beautiful.
Still
She really
good.
was. And she still is. And he idolized her. From the day when he picked her up, he says, "This is my heart and soul." And it was. All the way through.
Have a girl first. Definitely have a
Oh,
girl.
he
I want a girl.
idolized,
Oh, yeah, you want a
I
girl.
want a girl.
he idolized
I'll
her.
be the
Oh, you
father
do.
from hell if I have a daughter.
Oh, you'll be the best. You'll be the best.
I don't know about that.
Little girls
Yeah,
are,
you will.
little boys are pretty too. Little girls are pretty too.
Yeah, Danny was gonna be my little girl.
Ari was going to be my little girl
Danielle.
because I wanted a sister for Aileen, but after Mari was born, I said, "That's it, no more."
That's all you get.
Did you want to have more
Thank
than
God I
three?
got, I have what my children. I have what I have. Plus they're wonderful.
Did you want more, but you couldn't afford more?
I didn't want more. Three was
They were so
fine.
poor they couldn't even afford the
Well, then
water.
why did your mom have 8 or 9?
She had a sense of humor.
What was she thinking?
Years ago in Europe, they always had 8, 9 kids. They always had a lot of children. Aileen, let's go put that in the oven.
The turkey's not.
Huh?
I have to put it according to the turkey.
Is the turkey done? The
So-
turkey won't be ready for 2 more hours, will it?
What time you got?
Did you
5 to 4.
did you take the things out of the neck?
What takes a turkey so
Did you
long?
take the stuff out of the net?
Oh no, it's a serious problem though. Takes too long to cook.
What other stories we have?
Did he?
Yeah.
Nanny, why did everyone have a store back then?
I thought that
It's,
Jewish,
Jewish people didn't know anything, only a
All they
craft
could
store,
do
a
is do
grocery
clothes and stores.
store. Huh?
All they could do was clothes and stores.
Right.
No, I guess no one could afford college back then.
No, a lot of people didn't go to college. You're lucky if you went to high school. Because everybody had support everybody.
So what did you do? You just finished up high school and then went to beauty school?
I didn't finish high school. I went for 2.5 years.
You didn't finish high school? Did you get your GED?
No.
Really?
I really could finish it now, couldn't
I
I?
think you ought to.
Why?
It's amazing though. She has a great vocabulary for someone who didn't finish high school.
She reads
She
a lot.
reads
I
so
didn't
much.
finish high school. I couldn't afford to stay in high school. I had to go to work.
So you went
I went to work.
9th grade and 10th grade, and that was it.
Yeah, and I went to beauty school, but I worked.
Didn't you go to school in Soldan and all the black people gave you so much trouble that you made your parents move? Or was that mom?
No. I went to Central High.
Or Central, whatever, and
There were no blacks there, no.
I thought that either
No.
you or mom went to a high school that was in,
Oh, when Aileen went to Soldan.
yeah.
And, let's see, when we moved, she graduated U City. And, oh, that's right. At that time, all the blacks were coming in. And they were terrible because they felt like they should take over the whole school. It was very hard.
Yeah.
And when I knew they were coming in, my sister Sally and I, my sister Sally and Sally, we all went flat on McPherson. We bought it together. And that's where I had a beauty shop in the house. We had to borrow the down payment. We didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And the beauty shop paid off the down payment for the house. And when we moved to Dartmouth then, because I didn't want her to go to Solon, because the blacks were terrible then. Couldn't control them at all. They bring in knives, and then they wanted to take the white girls out. There was a lot going on. More than now. Huh? They did.
Where is Soldan?
It's on Union, and then right in the heart of where they're all killing everybody. Like 60, 100, 5900, 5800.
It's like on the border of the city and North City, right? It's like we're
Till that
downtown.
was in the city. No, it wasn't Union. It's in the city. Union's before Kings Highway. We lived a block, about 3 blocks from Solon. No, I wouldn't let her go there. So we sold the house, Sally and I, and she went to Tulane, and I moved on Dartmouth. And then she went to U City School. And then there were no blacks there. Now, it's all, it's like a loop, you know, the Delmar Loop.
Remember any good funny stories about our father when he's just met mom?
I don't know, I think she met him at a party.
Yeah.
We were living we were living in Indian Meadows then. They were very much in love. They were. Okay, if you go down and get the bridge table and one chair,
Boyd
Yeah,
said,
you get the Carson Bridge bed.
Boyd said he'd get it for me.
all right, and I will set the table. Because there's 9
I
of
got
us, we can't sit around that table, 9 of us.
So there's 2 tables on the holidays.
One table.
You always get
We'll
that.
make it long. Go ahead, Danny, just run down real fast.
Boyd said he'd do it for me. Go ahead, Boyd.
I get it. 'Cause Dan will have dishpan hands later.
Oh, that's Rick.
No, you.
No,
You'll have dishpan here.
Dan will,
Why?
because he's a permanent dishwasher.
No, Rick volunteered.
Full time.
Rick said he was up for the holiday this time.
Come on. That's
All right.
okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Boyd.
Well, that was a good session.
What else?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy turkey. Gobble, gobble,
Turkey.
gobble.
93.
up, I'll turn the camera off.
Then Pappy had a heart attack 20 years ago.
20 years ago? Did he have two?
Huh?
He had
He had
5.
two?
I thought he had 5.
His first heart attack was about 20 years ago.
Didn't he have like 5 before he died?
He had a lot of them. No,
Huh?
Just two, didn't he?
he had more than 2.
What year did he die? Was it 79?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember I was in 9th grade.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I hated it. About me being the idiot that I am, went up to the coffin to look at him. That was stupid.
Yeah, you were freaked out.
They shouldn't have let me do that.
You had bad dreams.
I had
for a
nightmares
long
for like a
time,
month or 2.
What'd you
Every
vote
night.
for?
I remember.
I thought I could handle it, I guess. No one stopped me. I remember walking up with Mom and she let me walk up with her.
And she went outside and was screaming.
I wouldn't let anyone under the age of 12 see a body. Too
That
traumatic.
was 15 years ago.
Too traumatic. But I had nightmares like I'd come from school, like in the dining room of the house, you know, laying on one of those little couches, and I'd think that he was dead, and I'd walk up and I'd shake him, and he'd look like he was dead, and all of a sudden he'd wake up and grab me, and I'd freak out. I'd wake up screaming.
Why'd you go see him? I don't know.
I just, yeah, I don't
Dad
know.
and Laurie were too young.
I just wanted to do it.